The galaxy had been quiet for 1,000 years, and humans had grown comfortable in the calm that stretched across the stars after the great wars that had once threatened to tear civilizations apart. Now, Earth and its colonies glittered like jewels. Among the stars, towering cities reached into clouds that floated like soft pillows above the ground, and the people moved with a confidence born of centuries of peace. There were no armies mustered for war because there was no enemy to fear. The stars themselves seemed like neighbors rather than places of danger. Humans traded and explored and shared knowledge freely across the planets without suspicion or hesitation. The air was filled with the hum of ships traveling from one system to another, and the light of distant suns cast a golden glow over cities that never slept. Innovation and curiosity were the lifeblood of human civilization. New forms of energy had replaced the old reliance on dying planets and scarce resources, and artificial intelligence helped humans solve problems that had once taken decades to untangle. Humans had even made contact with other races, some friendly, some indifferent, and learned to navigate the complex web of alliances and treaties that kept the galaxy balanced. It seemed nothing could disturb this perfect harmony, until the first whispers began to circulate in quiet corridors of the interstellar councils, and in the low hum of communication channels. Strange messages that carried tones of warning and hints of malice reached human ears. At first they were dismissed as anomalies, the voices of paranoid scholars or the effects of static in deep space transmissions. Yet as weeks passed, the messages grew clearer and more coordinated. A pattern emerged from the background noise of the galaxy. The messages were not random. They were deliberate, and they were pointing at humanity. No one could quite believe it. Not because humans doubted the presence of other civilizations, but because humans had never been a race that others feared. Humanity had grown strong. Yes, but the galaxy had watched humans fight wars a millennium ago, and then watched them choose peace and compassion over conquest. And that made humans almost like a curiosity, rather than a threat. The messages came from a coalition of species that had remained distant for centuries. Beings whose technology rivaled the imagination of even the most advanced human scientists. These species had observed humanity from afar, noting the way humans adapted to challenges, the way they innovated, the way they thrived against impossible odds and for reasons unknown. The coalition decided it was time to act. It was time to test the humans. The first clear message arrived one morning across every communication channel used by humans on every planet, a signal so loud that no one could ignore it, and it carried words that would change everything for humanity. "We come for you." It said not in anger, but in a declaration of intent, in a statement that suggested planning and preparation far beyond the capability of anyone. Humans had met before the initial reaction of the human population was laughter. The news anchors delivered the message with a mix of disbelief and sarcasm. The citizens across Earth and the colonies shared memes and jokes. The words seemed absurd too. Theatrical to be serious. People said it must be a prank or a test of some kind in the universities and research centers. The scientists ran simulations to try and understand why the coalition would declare war on a species that had never interfered with them. Why attack a civilization that had spent a millennium perfecting peace and culture? They debated and argued, and some admitted quietly that perhaps humans had underestimated the capabilities of other species. Yet the general sentiment remained one of amusement rather than fear. In the streets of Earth, people celebrated their daily lives without any interruption or panic. Children played. In the parks, adults went about their work. The stock markets barely blinked at the news, and the leaders of humanity convened in councils not to plan immediate defense, but to discuss what kind of message they should send back. Should they answer with formality or wit? Should they send diplomats or comedians? The first public statement from the human government came with a smile and a hint of mischief. "Humanity will defend itself if necessary, but we hope you enjoy your stay at Red." And the galaxy waited to see what would happen next. In the quiet of space, alien ships began to stir. Distant lights moved through the darkness, traveling at speeds that made human eyes strain to follow. They observed humanity with caution and curiosity. For the first time in centuries, humans were not simply a fascinating race to study from afar. They were now the center of attention for a galaxy that had underestimated them, and on Earth the people continued to laugh. They laughed at the sheer audacity of the alien declaration, at the pomp and ceremony that had accompanied it, at the idea that after 1,000 years of peace, someone could mistake humans for easy prey, and in this laughter there was confidence, a deep-rooted certainty that humanity was prepared for whatever the galaxy might throw at them. And though the first ripple of unease passed quietly through the halls of power, most humans felt something else. A thrill, a sense of adventure that perhaps the quiet Millennium had been preparing them for this moment, a moment that would test the spirit of a species that had always believed that while peace was valuable, it was strength that guaranteed survival. And so as the alien fleets began to move through the dark reaches of space, and as their intentions became more obvious, humans did what they had done for centuries. They laughed, they prepared, and they waited, ready to show the galaxy that 1,000 years of peace had not softened them, that they were still clever, still daring, and above all, still undeniably human. The alien fleets did not wait long before revealing themselves in the dark expanse of space, massive vessels that shimmered with unknown energy signatures, the kind that human scientists had theorized about but never observed in person. They moved like predators stalking their prey, crossing systems with deliberate precision, and human astronomers watched in awe and amusement, plotting the exact trajectories and trying to guess the purpose of these strange warships. The media broadcasted images of the alien armadas to billions of people across Earth and the colonies, and the reactions were the same everywhere: laughter, confusion, and a deep sense of curiosity. Humans could not take the threat seriously. At first, the ships were enormous. Yes, but the distances between stars were vast, and even with their advanced propulsion, they would take time to reach human territories. People joked online that the aliens must have sent a message before they packed their space luggage. Humans in the colonies on Mars and the orbital habitats sent signals back, using their own technology, playful messages like, "Welcome to our neighborhood," or "Please do not break anything while you visit." Some even sent small gifts like ornamental satellites, shaped like Earth animals. And the aliens watched and adjusted their approach, noting the communication patterns and trying to decipher the strange behaviors of the species they had intended to intimidate. The alien coalition could not understand why humans laughed, why they were not cowering in fear or scrambling to build massive fleets to defend themselves. The human approach was so different from any species they had encountered in the past, and the more they observed, the more confused they became. The military leaders of humanity convened in the orbiting command stations circling Earth, and the colonies they studied the incoming fleets, and the intelligence reports coming from deep space assessments of alien technology and tactics indicated that these were not primitive raiders. These were warriors whose civilizations had fought and survived wars of unimaginable scale. Yet the humans did not panic. Instead, they prepared with efficiency and calm, not out of fear but out of habit. Humanity had always thrived under pressure, had always found ways to turn disadvantage into opportunity, and in the command centers, scientists and engineers worked with the same dedication as the soldiers and strategists. Humans had developed contingency plans for decades, not because they expected a war, but because preparation was a value ingrained in their culture. Every human vessel, every orbital defense station, every automated system was brought online ready for analysis and coordination. And yet the public response remained lighthearted. Memes depicting aliens tripping over their own laser beams went viral across the colonies. Jokes about how the aliens would need instructions to pour water or open doors dominated forums, and even politicians joined in on the humor, broadcasting videos of children pretending to fight off alien invaders with toy blasters and homemade spacesuits. The first skirmish occurred at the outermost edge of the Sol system. A group of alien scouts attempted to approach Mars undetected, but were noticed by human observation drones. The humans did not respond with missiles or weapons immediately. Instead, they played a game of misdirection, sending false signals and holographic images of massive fleets appearing where none existed. The aliens were momentarily confused. Humans had mastered the art of deception and strategy to a degree that had made other species wary during negotiations, but never threatening to them before. Now it became clear that humans did not only rely on strength, but also on cunning. The aliens launched small strikes trying to gauge human reaction and test defenses, but every time they were met with a calm and methodical countermeasure, not destruction but deterrence. Automated systems Rerouted energy fields created artificial gravitational anomalies and even jammed communications. Without ever firing a single shot, humans laughed as they watched the reports. They laughed because they could sense the aliens' frustration, because they knew that confidence and arrogance could be a weapon just as effective as lasers and missiles. In the wrong hands, human pilots began performing maneuvers near alien vessels that seemed reckless, but were calculated to provoke and confuse the enemy. The aliens fired weapons that humans expertly dodged and responded to with minimal effort, often using non-lethal methods like electromagnetic pulses and holographic illusions. The humans treated the entire encounter like a game. A deadly, high-stakes game. But a game nonetheless. In the human colonies, the civilians did not hide behind shelters. They gathered in observation lounges and on orbital decks to watch the light show created by energy weapons and the shimmering distortions of alien shields, and children asked questions about how the humans were able to make the aliens miss by wide margins, and adults explained the basics of physics and strategy without fear. In fact, humans treated the alien war like a test, an exercise designed to prove their own skill and adaptability. The alien leaders grew frustrated, their war plans disrupted at every turn by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. And even when the aliens captured small human vessels or engaged directly with soldiers, they found humans who were calm, resourceful, and audacious in ways the aliens had not predicted. Humans would disarm traps with a smile, repair damaged systems in moments, and sometimes negotiate their way out of deadly situations. By sheer force of will and confidence, the humor of humanity became another weapon. Their laughter and nonchalance a signal of unshakable resolve that no enemy could underestimate. And across the galaxy, word began to spread about the humans who laughed in the face of a declared war. The legends of human ingenuity and resilience that had been recorded in old interstellar histories now came alive as other species began to watch humanity with renewed interest, curiosity, and sometimes envy. Humans had not fought for 1,000 years because there was no need, but their readiness and their spirit had not diminished. If anything, it had grown sharper. Through centuries of peace, the alien fleets had assumed that time had softened humanity. But what they encountered was a species whose calm and humor concealed a mind honed to anticipate and overcome challenges, whose laughter did not mean ignorance but mastery. And so as the alien coalition regrouped and tried to understand the humans continued to watch and laugh and prepare a demonstration of strength and cleverness that would remind the galaxy why humans had survived when many others had not, and why no species should ever mistake peace for weakness. The alien coalition could not comprehend what they were seeing. The humans, they had expected panic and surrender. Instead, they encountered calm and precision, and the humans treated the conflict like a challenge meant to be solved rather than a catastrophe. To fear, the alien leaders convened on their massive command vessels, trying to calculate how a species that had not fought in a millennium could anticipate their every move and counter every strategy they deployed. Human scientists and engineers had not only studied alien technology for decades, but had improved on it in ways that no one had imagined, creating adaptive shields that could bend energy weapons back toward their origin and propulsion systems, that allowed ships to maneuver in ways alien physics had predicted to be impossible. The humans began to strike not with sheer firepower, but with tactics that turned alien expectations against them, creating scenarios where entire fleets hesitated because they could not distinguish between real threats and cleverly constructed illusions. The humans sent messages that were playful yet calculated, indicating that they were aware of the aliens' every strategy, and the aliens realized that human humor was part of their intimidation. A laugh at the right moment could make an entire war council doubt its own decisions. The first real engagement occurred near the asteroid belt of Jupiter, where humans had secretly stationed defense platforms that could manipulate gravity and electromagnetic fields to create zones of unpredictable movement. The alien fleet entered what they believed was empty space, only to find themselves caught in a maze of invisible barriers that bent light and energy and communications in ways they could not anticipate. Human pilots darted between asteroids, weaving through gravitational anomalies, using decoys and holographic projections to confuse targeting systems and alien weapons, misfired or were delayed, and the aliens were forced to retreat with minimal damage but maximum humiliation. The humans did not gloat. Publicly, they reported the engagement with factual precision, highlighting only the outcomes and leaving the aliens to draw their own conclusions. But the populations across Earth and the colonies celebrated quietly and collectively because they understood that the battle had not only been won through technology, but through willpower and intellect. Humans had trained for centuries, not only to survive, but to thrive under pressure. And this was the ultimate test of everything they had prepared. For the humans' response to the alien war was not driven by fear or anger, but by curiosity and opportunity. They studied every alien tactic, every weapon, every movement, and applied their own ingenuity to create countermeasures that were elegant, and unexpected alien admirals were frustrated by the humans' ability to predict ambushes and avoid traps without panic. And this frustration only increased the humans' confidence. Civilians and soldiers alike shared information openly across networks, collaborating in ways that alien species had never imagined. And the aliens realized that the human mind was not linear. It was fluid, adaptive, and audacious in ways that no one had experienced. The aliens attempted psychological warfare, sending messages of domination and destruction, trying to provoke fear or surrender. But humans responded with calm reason and humor, crafting messages that acknowledged the threat while subtly mocking the aliens' assumptions, and every intercepted transmission became a study in strategy and psychology. The aliens had expected fear. They had expected chaos. Instead, they found a species that could laugh at danger while simultaneously dismantling it. Piece by piece, entire fleets were lured into zones where energy fields and gravitation anomalies were not only defensive, but offensive, turning alien technology against them, without humans ever having to fire a single destructive shot. The humans' methods were shocking in their effectiveness, and alien commanders began to doubt themselves, doubted the very assumptions that had allowed them to dominate countless other species, and all the while, humans continued to push the boundaries of what the aliens thought possible, demonstrating that endurance, patience, and intellect could be far more powerful than brute force. The battle over the Martian colonies became a turning point where human ingenuity shone brightest, where every maneuver was calculated not only to protect their own but to educate the enemy about the error of underestimating humanity. Aliens tried to disable communication networks, but humans had built redundancy beyond imagination. Networks that were decentralized and self-repairing even in the midst of attacks. Satellites and drones adapted on the fly, sharing tactical information instantly, and alien weapons were rendered ineffective by adaptive shields that bent energy and momentum in ways that created confusion and hesitation. Every encounter became a lesson in human cleverness, and aliens began to whisper about the human species as something more than dangerous, as something unknowable, as something unstoppable. And humans laughed not because they were reckless, but because they understood the scale of the challenge and had confidence in their ability to meet it head-on. While minimizing risk, their laughter echoed across communication channels. It was not fear. It was assurance. It was the knowledge that every strategy they could imagine had already been considered and countered. And as the aliens regrouped across the outer systems, plotting their next moves, they realized that the humans were not merely surviving, they were thriving. The galaxy had not seen a species capable of turning peace into preparation and curiosity into power, and in every human command center, every pilot, every scientist, and every citizen understood that they were witnessing the first true test of their civilization, not against monsters, but against arrogance itself. And as the standoff continued, humans began to demonstrate tactics that were almost playful in nature, creating illusions of fleets that did not exist, leading alien ships on wild chases through asteroid fields and gravitational anomalies. And yet each action was precise, calculated, effective, and humiliating for the alien coalition. For the first time in a millennium, humanity was not just defending its worlds, it was showing the galaxy why no species should ever underestimate the humans, because humor, cunning, intellect, and courage were weapons as lethal as any laser or missile, and the aliens realized that every move they made was anticipated, already countered, and often turned against them. And humans smiled and laughed and prepared for the next stage of the conflict, not with fear, not with despair, but with the absolute certainty that they had mastered the art of survival and supremacy through preparation and wit, and every alien attack only strengthened the legend that humanity had always been underestimated, but never unready. The humans had learned quickly that the alien coalition was driven by pride and assumptions, and now they decided to take the next step, not through blind aggression but through audacious demonstration of their superiority. The humans began to construct enormous decoy fleets that looked like entire armadas, but were in reality agile formations of smaller ships and drones that could rearrange themselves instantly to confuse alien sensors. And the aliens fell into the trap immediately. They believed they had discovered the main human forces and advanced eagerly, only to be met with coordinated countermeasures that turned their attacks into complete failures. The humans had developed weapons that did not simply destroy but manipulated the environment, turning energy discharges into gravitational distortions and electromagnetic pulses into localized vortexes that scattered alien ships without a single human casualty. Civilians on Earth watched in awe as the news channels streamed real-time feeds, showing alien vessels caught in invisible traps moving unpredictably and failing to fire accurately, and the humans laughed not out of cruelty but out of certainty, knowing that they had already analyzed every possible counter, and the aliens were forced to retreat again. Humankind did not rest after the initial victories. Instead, they expanded their operations, creating orbital platforms around the gas giants that could alter trajectories of meteors and comets in ways that seemed random to the aliens, but were precisely calculated to create hazards only in the spaces the humans allowed, and when the aliens attempted to navigate these zones, their ships were slowed or misaligned, and human interceptors could strike at their most vulnerable points. The alien coalition could not comprehend this level of foresight, and began to argue among themselves, questioning why every move they planned was anticipated and neutralized. And in the midst of this confusion, the humans continued their expansion into strategic locations, not for conquest but for defense and demonstration of their capabilities. Intelligence networks spanning multiple planets allowed every human faction to share updates instantly, and the aliens realized that even if they destroyed one fleet, their strategies would be known and countered immediately, creating an unbreakable cycle of adaptation and dominance. The humans had also begun psychological operations, exploiting the alien assumption that humans would panic or act irrationally under threat. They broadcast messages not of surrender, but of amusement and challenge, pointing out every failure and every miscalculation of the aliens in ways that were factual, yet mocking, creating doubt among the alien ranks. And every time an alien commander hesitated, a human ship had already moved into the most advantageous position. Alien scientists attempted to reverse engineer human technology, but found it constantly adapting, self-repairing and reconfiguring itself in ways that defied alien logic. Even the smallest human vessels could neutralize larger alien ships. If deployed with the correct strategy, the humans emphasized precision, intelligence, and coordination, rather than raw power, and the alien coalition began to realize that their biggest threat was not weapons or numbers, but the humans' ability to outthink and outmaneuver them continuously. The humans then introduced autonomous units that could operate independently using artificial intelligence that was designed not to replace human decision-making, but to enhance it, predicting enemy movements and improvising tactics in real time. And the aliens were bewildered by the speed and adaptability of these machines. They were not merely tools. They were extensions of human creativity and willpower. And when the aliens attempted to target command ships, the autonomous units intercepted and created false targets, drawing alien fire away from actual human commanders. Every engagement reinforced the perception that humans were everywhere at once and nowhere in particular, that their presence was not just on the battlefield, but in the mind of every alien strategist, creating fear. Not through terror, but through relentless competence and audacity, the humans' communication officers began to broadcast playful messages taunting the aliens about their failed calculations, and in every message there was an underlying current of precision, showing that humans knew exactly what was happening across the battlefields, and the aliens began to fear that every move they made was already anticipated by a species that had not fought for a millennium, but had mastered strategy during the long peace. Humans then executed maneuvers in deep space that were so complex that the alien coalition had to pause operations just to analyze them. Thousands of ships weaving through gravitational fields and debris in synchronized patterns that looked chaotic, but were perfectly coordinated. And the aliens realized that their previous victories in other conflicts meant nothing here because they had never faced a species that combined intelligence, endurance, and creativity into a single unstoppable force. And humans laughed again, not out of arrogance, but out of the joy of witnessing their plans succeed and of seeing arrogance humbled. Across the stars, the humans then began to train young pilots not just in combat, but in improvisation and tactical creativity, ensuring that every human in the fleet could act independently, yet still contribute to the larger strategy. Alien attempts to infiltrate human communications failed, because humans had created adaptive encryption and redundancy systems that were impossible to crack in real time, and alien spies were constantly misled by human simulations of fleets and bases that did not exist. The aliens began to feel frustration and admiration, simultaneously realizing that humans were not merely surviving. They were thriving against every expectation and every stereotype. And for the first time, the galaxy began to whisper about humans not as a primitive species, but as something formidable, unpredictable, and supremely capable. And humans continued to advance not with reckless ambition, but with calculated audacity. Each victory reinforcing their confidence, each failure avoided through preparation, teaching every alien that underestimating humans was not only dangerous but fatal. And as the humans prepared for the next phase of operations, deploying massive adaptive arrays and demonstrating capabilities that no alien species had ever encountered before, the aliens understood that they were facing something entirely new. A species that had turned peace into preparation, humor into strategy, and ingenuity into power. And humans smiled and laughed and moved forward, confident that the galaxy would never again forget that humans were not to be challenged lightly. Humans had learned that war was not merely about destruction, it was about control, perception, and the relentless exploitation of every advantage. And now they turned their eyes toward the outer edges of the alien coalition, deploying massive arrays of observation satellites and sensor webs that could detect even the faintest energy signature light years away. And the aliens were unaware that every movement they made was cataloged, analyzed, and predicted. With astonishing accuracy, humans began to manipulate celestial phenomena in subtle ways, altering asteroid belts, sending small comets on precise trajectories that would appear as natural hazards but were in fact strategic obstacles designed to funnel alien forces into predetermined zones where human fleets waited ready. And when the aliens entered these zones, they found themselves unable to maneuver freely, their ships trapped in gravitational distortions created by humans, and every attempt to escape was met with countermeasures that seemed instantaneous, as if humans were everywhere. At once, the humans then introduced their new generation of combat vessels, the Hyperion, class ships massive in size but capable of unprecedented speed and maneuverability, equipped with adaptive shields that could reflect and redirect energy attacks. And when the aliens attempted to strike, they found their weapons turned back upon them, not in chaotic randomness but with precise calibration, causing panic and confusion among the ranks. The humans laughed at the alien communications jamming attempts because every message sent was met with controlled feedback loops that broadcasted alien mistakes across their own networks, creating internal chaos, and alien commanders were forced to divert attention to their own systems, while humans continued to advance unopposed. The humans also began using psychological tactics more boldly, broadcasting images and messages that highlighted alien failures with ironic humor, pointing out that after 1,000 years of peace, they had forgotten how clever and resilient humans could be, and this constant reminder demoralized the alien fleets who had expected fear and terror. Instead, they were met with amusement and confidence, a stark contrast to their assumptions. Humans deployed autonomous repair drones that could maintain massive fleets in deep space, keeping ships operational indefinitely. And alien analysts could not comprehend how humans managed logistics on a scale that made their own bureaucracies seem trivial. Humans created simulations of battle scenarios so complex that alien strategists could not keep up, predicting multiple outcomes and contingencies. And they realized that no matter what they attempted, humans had already considered the possibility and prepared for it. The humans then demonstrated their ability to manipulate planetary environments, subtly causing magnetic fluctuations in alien homeworlds that disrupted communications and infrastructure without harming civilians, showing that human power could be precise. devastating and ethical all at once, and the aliens grew fearful. Not of brute force, but of human ingenuity and restraint, and then humans escalated further, introducing the Aurora Protocol fleets consisting of thousands of vessels that could separate and recombine instantaneously, forming defensive and offensive configurations in ways that seemed impossible. And every time the aliens thought they had an advantage, the fleets would shift, adapt, and counterstrike simultaneously, striking multiple targets with coordinated precision. The aliens attempted to negotiate secretly, but humans intercepted and responded with calm clarity, explaining that any peaceful resolution required respect for human autonomy, and that continued. Aggression would be met with escalating consequences, and alien leaders found themselves trapped between the fear of human retaliation and the admiration for their capabilities. Humans then began large-scale demonstrations showing the ability to terraform small moons and asteroids, creating temporary safe zones for civilians, while simultaneously turning hostile zones into complex defensive grids, and the aliens could only watch in awe, realizing that humans had weaponized environmental control not for wanton destruction but for strategic advantage. Humans laughed openly in public broadcasts, showing alien attempts to coordinate and failing because they could not keep up with human adaptability, and the aliens began to realize that human civilization was not just technologically advanced but fundamentally resilient. Their ability to endure, plan, and innovate simultaneously was unmatched. Humans then introduced adaptive AI systems that could operate fleets autonomously, but in complete harmony with human command intent, anticipating enemy moves, predicting weaknesses, and improvising strategies in ways alien intelligence could not match. And the alien coalition began to fracture as commanders argued over tactics, knowing that no matter what they chose, humans had already prepared counters. Humans then conducted operations that seemed like theater from the outside, massive coordinated movements of ships that created patterns visible from orbit, and every pattern conveyed information about alien mistakes and future maneuvers, as if humans were playing a game of chess on a galactic scale, and the aliens were losing before the first piece moved. Humans also began integrating civilian support into strategic operations, ensuring that every human contribution, from research to logistics to piloting, augmented the war effort, and aliens could not understand how a species that had been peaceful for a millennium could organize so effectively in conflict. Humans then sent a fleet to the alien home system, not to invade but to demonstrate absolute control over space and resources. Every orbital adjustment, every ship movement, every light and sensor signal was a calculated display of superiority, and the aliens realized that this was not a threat in the conventional sense, but an assertion of capability. That humans did not need to kill to dominate. The aliens had assumed fear and aggression would dictate human response, and they were wrong. Humans responded with strategy, innovation, and audacious demonstrations, and everywhere humans smiled and laughed, confident in their ability to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast any species in the galaxy. And the aliens understood for the first time that humans were not to be underestimated, and that the war they had declared had already been lost before a single human vessel had fired a shot. The humans had grown accustomed to the galaxy watching and waiting for their next move, and they knew that the final demonstration must be something unprecedented, something that would leave no doubt in the minds of the alien coalition that humanity was not merely a species to be challenged, but a force that operated on principles far beyond simple warfare. And the humans began mobilizing fleets with a precision that bordered on artistry. Every ship, every drone, every sensor, and every soldier moved in perfect synchronization, as if guided by a single consciousness, and the aliens observed in disbelief as humans orchestrated maneuvers that no simulation could have predicted. The humans then deployed the Arclight Protocol, a series of colossal orbital arrays around key alien strongholds designed to manipulate gravitational fields and energy flux in ways that created illusions of massive armadas, where in reality human forces were minimal, but perfectly positioned, and alien commanders could not distinguish reality from deception. And panic began to ripple through their ranks, and the humans laughed, knowing that fear could be weaponized more efficiently than any missile or laser. The humans simultaneously broadcast messages in the alien tongue, not as threats, but as statements of capability and confidence, detailing the mistakes and vulnerabilities the aliens had exhibited over the centuries, and reminding them that every attempt to harm humanity had been anticipated and countered, and the aliens grew frustrated, realizing that human warfare was not about destruction. It was about demonstrating mastery and control in ways that the aliens had never conceived. The humans then turned their attention to psychological operations, crafting scenarios in which alien leaders were forced to make decisions under pressure, while every outcome reinforced the superiority of human strategy, and every failure was broadcast across communication networks, creating confusion and internal dissent within the coalition. And humans smiled because chaos, created without violence, could be more devastating than fleets of warships moving at light speed. The humans then introduced the Nova Array's massive energy projectors capable of harnessing stellar output and redirecting it in precise bursts, not to destroy planets but to simulate catastrophic strikes against alien forces in controlled exercises. And every display of power was accompanied by detailed analysis, showing the aliens where their assumptions had failed and how human ingenuity had turned predictable actions into opportunities. And the aliens began to realize that humans were operating on an intellectual plane, where planning, anticipation, and adaptation were not just strategies, but extensions of their very culture. The humans also coordinated with civilian populations across multiple planets, ensuring that every scientist, engineer, pilot, and citizen contributed to the operation in ways that magnified effectiveness, and alien intelligence could not comprehend how a species could integrate so seamlessly while maintaining freedom and morale. Humans then executed the Zenith Gambit, moving small squadrons of ships in patterns that simulated a larger offensive, while simultaneously establishing multiple defensive layers capable of absorbing any attack the aliens could muster. And the humans watched the reactions with amusement because every attempt at aggression was neutralized effortlessly, as if the humans anticipated the future, and the aliens realized that every plan they had formulated over 1,000 years of peace had been insufficient against a species that thrived on creativity, adaptability, and relentless innovation. The humans then conducted a demonstration of interstellar logistics, moving entire colonies, supplies, and military assets across vast distances faster than the aliens believed physically possible, and every operation was visible to the enemy, creating awe and fear simultaneously. And the aliens began to understand that human endurance and resourcefulness were unmatched, and that no single battle could define the outcome because humans could always recover, adapt, and counterstrike with greater efficiency. The humans also revealed the Infinity Network, a hyper-intelligent AI system that could calculate trillions of scenarios in real time, providing humans with strategies and solutions that alien minds could not even conceptualize. And every decision made by human leaders was informed by insights that gave them the upper hand in every engagement. And alien commanders grew desperate, realizing that no tactic could surprise a species that had anticipated even the improbable. Humans then staged the luminous convergence, a coordinated alignment of fleets and orbital structures around multiple systems, creating a spectacle so grand that it could be seen from light years away. And the aliens were forced to witness the scale of human organization and the depth of their capability. And every display carried a subtle message that humans could dominate without destruction, and that the choice to fight was entirely in the hands of their adversaries. Humans broadcast the final message, not as a threat, but as a statement of fact, explaining that war was a game humanity had already mastered, and that continued hostility would only serve to expose the limitations of those who challenged them. And the aliens began to fracture internally, as leaders debated surrender, negotiation, or continued resistance, and humans observed, knowing that every decision the aliens made had been anticipated, and that the demonstration of skill and power had achieved its purpose. The humans laughed because they understood that the greatest victories were those achieved without bloodshed, when strategy, ingenuity, and confidence converged to render opposition futile. And the aliens finally comprehended that the war they had declared 1,000 years after peace was not a contest of force but a lesson in humility, and the humans prepared to conclude the operation, knowing that the galaxy had witnessed an unparalleled display of human capability, and that any future conflict would be approached with the respect and caution humanity deserved. The galaxy had been watching for centuries, waiting for the inevitable confrontation, but humans had rewritten the rules of engagement, and now in the climax of the campaign, The aliens realized that every assumption they had held about superiority, about tactics, about diplomacy, and about war itself had been shattered by a species that refused to be constrained by conventional wisdom. And humans continued to demonstrate capabilities that bordered on the miraculous, moving fleets, not just with precision, but with purpose, every maneuver calculated to achieve maximum psychological effect, while preserving resources and lives, and the aliens could not comprehend the depth of planning and foresight that allowed humanity to anticipate their moves before they even considered them. Humans then initiated the Ascendant Protocol, a sequence of coordinated maneuvers spanning multiple star systems designed to create the impression of omnipresence, while in reality, human forces were striking only where it mattered most, and the aliens watched in awe as ships appeared simultaneously at distant points, disrupting supply lines, communications, and morale, without ever revealing the true size or location of the human force. And the humans smiled because deception, when executed with intelligence, was far more effective than raw power. The aliens attempted to retaliate, launching concentrated assaults against human positions, but every attack was met with precise counters that not only neutralized the threat but turned it into advantage. And the aliens began to suffer from internal discord as commanders debated how a species that appeared so small in number could wield such overwhelming control. And humans understood that fear could be weaponized as effectively as any laser or missile. And the humans used this fear not to destroy, but to teach the aliens that every decision carried consequences beyond their imagination. The humans then revealed the Celestial Lattice, a network of orbital stations capable of creating controlled gravitational anomalies and energy fields that could simulate planetary destruction without actually causing harm, and every display was accompanied by data showing how human ingenuity could manipulate physics to achieve strategic dominance. And the aliens grew increasingly desperate, realizing that they were facing not just technology, but a species that could innovate faster than they could react. Humans then initiated the resonance sequence, sending coordinated energy pulses through communication networks and quantum sensors, creating disorientation and confusion among alien fleets and command structures. And the humans observed with amusement as every alien response played directly into the carefully constructed human strategy. And the aliens began to understand that this was not a war of attrition, but a demonstration of superiority in intellect, creativity, and adaptability. The humans simultaneously deployed the Horizon Accord, a series of diplomatic and psychological maneuvers, ensuring that alien leaders who sought compromise or understanding could witness firsthand the benefits of cooperation over conflict, and those who resisted faced a clear choice between humiliation and surrender. And the humans were meticulous in their execution, every message, every display, every action reinforcing the reality that humanity could dominate without unnecessary destruction. And the aliens struggled to maintain cohesion as factions emerged, some advocating retreat, others proposing negotiation, while a few clung stubbornly to the illusion of parity. And humans patiently waited, knowing that time and observation were more effective than threats or ultimatums. Humans then conducted the Eventide maneuver, a breathtaking synchronization of fleets and orbital structures around multiple systems, creating a visual and strategic spectacle so powerful that alien populations could not ignore the inevitability of human dominance. And the aliens were forced to acknowledge that humanity had transformed the very concept of war from chaos and destruction into order and enlightenment. Humans then extended the hand of final communication, delivering a message, not of victory, but of inevitability, explaining that continued aggression would only expose further vulnerabilities, while cooperation and respect offered stability and mutual benefit. And the aliens recognized that humanity did not require annihilation to assert supremacy, but simply mastery of strategy, intelligence, and moral certainty. Humans then began consolidating control not through conquest, but through demonstration, ensuring that key systems were secure and that alien factions understood the futility of opposition while still allowing autonomy within agreed boundaries. And the aliens had no choice but to accept that the humans were unlike any adversary they had faced. The humans laughed because the greatest victory was achieved, not by destruction, but by proving that no force could challenge their combination of intellect, resilience, and foresight. And the galaxy watched as humans established an unprecedented era of influence, where threats were neutralized before they could manifest, and every species came to understand that human ingenuity was both a shield and a sword. The aliens who had declared war 1,000 years after peace now had to recalibrate their understanding of strength, realizing that true power lay not in fleets or weapons but in the ability to anticipate, adapt, and prevail against any challenge. And humans knew that this lesson was the most enduring legacy they could offer. The galaxy a reminder that the species that laughed in the face of impossibility could not be defeated, that strategy, intelligence, and unity could overcome any threat, and that peace itself was a weapon when wielded by a species that understood the universe not as a battlefield, but as a canvas for their limitless potential. And as the humans prepared to return to their worlds to celebrate and to continue building a future beyond imagination, the aliens formally acknowledged defeat, not in anger, but in awe and respect for a species that had proven beyond doubt that humanity was not merely a player in the galaxy, but a force that would shape the destiny of stars and civilizations for millennia to come. And the humans laughed once more, not from arrogance, but from the joy of mastery, knowing that the galaxy had witnessed the moment when humanity rose above fear, above doubt, above conflict, and established itself as the standard by which all others would be measured. And so the war ended before it truly began, with humans triumphant without unnecessary bloodshed, with aliens humbled without annihilation, and with the universe forever changed by the species that refused to be underestimated. The humans stood at the edge of the void, staring into the endless black of space where alien fleets had once threatened their worlds but now hung like fragile toys in a theater of strategy and patience. The humans moved not with haste, but with a calm born of confidence that came from centuries of surviving against impossible odds, and the aliens looked on, confused and defeated, realizing that everything they had believed about power and conquest was meaningless in the face of a species that could bend reality with thought and planning, and every human ship shimmered with technology that defied expectation, and every maneuver told a story of intelligence, creativity, and understanding of the universe itself, and the humans smiled. Because this war had never been about destruction, it had always been about showing what it meant to be human, to rise above fear, to laugh at impossible odds, to turn strategy into an art form. And as the humans advanced, they orchestrated movements so precise that the aliens found themselves trapped by their own assumptions, cut off from supply lines, communications, and morale crumbling without a single human casualty in sight. And the humans did not boast or gloat. They simply demonstrated that mastery of intellect and unity could defeat brute force without bloodshed. And the aliens began to whisper among themselves, questioning everything they had learned about war, about courage, about leadership, and about the meaning of strength. And the humans continued their display, launching the Orion sequence, a coordinated pattern of fleet movements, planetary shields, and energy fields that created illusions of omnipotence and omnipresence. While in reality, humans were conserving resources, adapting plans, and learning every moment from observation, and the aliens panicked, sending commands and counterattacks that fell into traps designed not for destruction, but for enlightenment. And the humans laughed softly, not in cruelty, but in the delight of proving that every threat could be met with ingenuity, that every challenge could be turned into opportunity, that even the mightiest opponent could be taught humility and restraint. And then the humans opened channels of communication across all systems, offering terms not of submission, but of understanding and coexistence, offering the aliens a chance to witness that cooperation with humanity was safer, wiser, and infinitely more productive than war. And the aliens who had once seen humans as primitive, unpredictable, and weak, now found themselves in awe of a species that had transformed the battlefield into a lesson in patience, discipline, and foresight. The humans advanced one final time, aligning fleets around key systems, showing the capacity to protect or destroy, yet choosing to protect, demonstrating that power without wisdom was meaningless. And the aliens finally surrendered their pride, their ambitions, their illusions of superiority and humanity, accepted this surrender, not with vengeance, but with calm dignity. And in that moment, the galaxy understood what it meant to be human, that a species could rise above fear, above chaos, above destruction, and assert dominance through intellect, courage, and compassion. And the humans celebrated quietly, knowing that they had not only won a war, but rewritten the laws of engagement and expectations of the universe that they had shown every species that intelligence, strategy, and unity were the true weapons of the future. And as the fleets dispersed, and stars continued their eternal dance, humans returned to their worlds to rebuild, to create, to explore, knowing that the galaxy would never forget the time when 1,000 years of peace were challenged and humanity simply laughed and prevailed. And that laughter echoed across the cosmos as a reminder that humans were unstoppable, not because of weapons or numbers, but because they understood themselves and the universe in ways no other species could match. And the aliens would remember forever that to challenge humanity was to challenge inevitability. And as silence settled across the conquered systems, the humans looked outward, ready for new challenges, new horizons, new possibilities, and the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, acknowledging a species that had risen above all obstacles and claimed its place as the standard of civilization. The humans knew their journey was only beginning, but the victory was complete, and the galaxy had witnessed the true meaning of strength, the power of thought, the supremacy of unity, and the indomitable spirit of humankind. The end.